All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us for Winning Lending Strategies with Allie Fry. If you haven't met her yet, you are in the perfect place. Allie is a senior loan officer with Movement Mortgage, and she's a preferred vendor with us for many reasons, not only for the way she supports our clients, but also for the way she supports us as agents. She helps a lot of our amazing events take place, and she also shows up for things like this so that we can feel educated about what's happening in the market. We know that you guys love our weekend wrap-up calls, and we figured it would be nice to have something similar specific to lending because that too is always changing. So the purpose of this is similar to the weekend wrap-up, very casual in structure. It's not going to be kind of a formal presentation of any sort, but it is an opportunity for you to see what's happening in the market, get questions answered, hear from the people that are doing the underwriting and interviewing the buyers in terms of what they are looking for, what issues they're running into. And so, or to share what you're seeing and kind of get a hot take on it. So, Allie, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you. I'll kind of let you take it away.
Sure. Um, I am, can you make me a host or something where I can share, or maybe I can, oh yeah. Um, for those of you that are on, if you want to go ahead and put your cameras on and come off mute anytime you want. Like Kate said, this is more of a conversation and, more engaging and that sort of thing. I'm here to just kind of, answer any questions, but also like collaborate as a team together. If you've had any crazy, weird scenarios as far as like financing goes or things like that, that we can all learn from. I think that's usually the best way to learn and evolve as in this real estate world, right? Um, I'm going to go through like these slides, but it's like I said, it's not really a presentation. It's just kind of more of uh, you know, topics to talk about. So first off, here's kind of like where we're at with rates. Usually that's the first question, where rates are, right? Whether it's, the question for me or for you guys too. So I always tell people if you want an easy like place to go to see where like nationwide average rates are, I think Mortgage News Daily has the best kind of most accurate as far as what Movement Mortgage usually aligns with as well. Obviously, it's going to depend on um, the the buyer's like profile and credit and that sort of thing and down payment, but it'll give you a really good idea of where rates are. They've got a app you can download that's pretty easy. If you haven't downloaded it already, I would highly recommend that. But based on today, we're at about 6.6. And then I just also kind of included this visual to kind of show where we're at just over the last kind of year. It's obviously all over the place, but we did hit a big kind of dip a couple weeks ago and been kind of staying steady around that 6.6 for a minute now. I know there has been kind of talks about next month's Fed meeting and cuts and that sort of thing. We've kind of, the market kind of is already baking that assumption in, and that's kind of where it dropped. It has been kind of creeping up a little bit this past week because there's been kind of talks about, whether that's now going to happen or not. Obviously, nobody has a crystal ball, so we'll see what happens next month and if it keeps continuing to go down. But I think that big drop there really has helped a lot of buyers kind of get off the fence. And I have seen kind of more of an uptick, not only with purchase applications, but with refinances too. So that's always like a good opportunity for you guys to reach out to past clients just for like a good reason to, be in touch and connect with them and remind them that you're still there. and just give them that option. And who knows, they might just be like, well, we don't want to refinance. We want to buy a new house because we've grown out of this house, or whatever the conversation leads you to. But it's just a good excuse to reach out to past clients as well. Any questions on that, or anything to do with rates as far as that goes, or trends? Has anybody had clients kind of be more off the fence, or are they still, what are your clients kind of saying as far as rates go, and whether that's affecting them going out and buying at all? Anybody want to chime in?
I'll share. I would love for someone else too, because obviously I'm not working with clients that much, but I do have some friends that are actively shopping and they had been considering buying a house for the past year or so and just started getting serious about the conversation. And over the past year, we've continued to have the rates conversation. And they're like, we just really are hoping the rates would drop, really hoping rates would, and so it was quite a nurture in terms of that conversation of like, yeah, you want that, of course you do. And at the same time, if that did happen, then you would be competing like crazy again because everyone else is also waiting for rates to drop. And so actually this is much more normal. And, we have no crystal ball. We never know if they'll ever be where they were back then. And so like what would that look like? And so anyway, it's just been a conversation as we all have with our clients. But they're actively house hunting now. And I mean, obviously this isn't the lending realm, but they are able to get like a lot more deals. They're having conversations about like $25,000 less than list price, potentially if it's been sitting on the market for a while, or having options for buy downs based on points and stuff like that. So, anyway, yeah, that's the limited conversations I've had about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely helps even a little bit when they come down, but I think there'll always be those people that just want to see it at, that 3% or whatever again. And I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. So um okay. So
Actually, Ali, I do have one question
yeah.
real quick, and I don't know if you have information on this, but you were talking about using that information as a reason to reach out to your people, and maybe someone wants to refinance. I'm curious in your experience, like historically speaking, what amount of a dip does someone expect or kind of need in order to justify that? Because it's not free, like you still have to pay closing costs and I don't know. I'm just curious in your experience, like what is that differential between the rate that they purchased at versus where they see it when it seems to make sense for people to do that financially?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think everybody has this like conception to think 1% is like the magic number to refinance and where it makes sense. But the way I talk to past clients and just clients in general, as far as refinancing, is um, what makes the most sense to them. Because some people want to save like $50 and that's good enough for them. And then other people want to save like $1,000 per month on their mortgage payment, and that makes sense for them. So I think each person is just a little bit different, and it just, that conversation needs to be had as far as what the savings is that they want to make it like trigger them to actually move forward. A lot of buyers, or people don't really know what 1% looks like to them as far as savings. So that conversation of how much per month that will take off your mortgage payment versus, okay, rates dropped 1%, is more aligned to what they understand, um, which makes sense, right? Like everybody has a different loan amount, so every 1% is going to be a little bit different as far as how much per month you're going to save. So kind of figuring that out. And so, whenever I talk to people, I'll just put in like, they want to save $500 a month. And that will be where we reach out and tell them, okay, the rates dropped X amount, and that's going to save you $500 a month or whatever it is, versus just, you know, looking at the rates in general.
And
Um,
just because we don't typically deal much with the refinancing side, and I've only done it once myself and I kind of like blocked it out. How long does refinancing typically take? Like, I guess the reason I'm asking it is, rates still vary every day. And so if we're talking about like a $50 difference, what if they start to kind of climb back up in the amount of time it takes? So what is the kind of fastest turnaround?
Yeah, usually it's still within that like 30, 45 day time frame, like a purchase in a way. Sometimes it can be sooner than that just because a lot of refinances might not need an appraisal. So that kind of cuts that time block off. Um, but it's typically, I usually say within the next 30 days we close, but we lock in the rate immediately. So if they, go up during that process, they're still locked into that lower rate. And a lot of times, I mean, probably like 99% of the time, people are going to roll in their closing costs. So they don't necessarily have to come to the table with cash to close like a purchase. It's just kind of rolled into the loan amount, which, $5,000 or less, depending on the loan amount, um, is going to be not much financed into the loan over the 30-year period or whatever time frame that they're financing it. So it makes more sense for them to just roll it in and not have to worry about out-of-pocket costs. Um, and with our refinances at Movement, if they are a past client, we have a reduction in the actual origination fee, and our rates are like a little bit lower than if somebody just came to us off the streets to refinance. Um, so that's kind of a benefit as far as already having their mortgage with Movement in general.
Got it. Thanks.
So I mean, coaching your clients on rates and how that gets them off the fence and eases their um, anxieties about it is that Mortgage News Daily is really a good way. But I mean, rates aren't the everything about the buying a house. So that's kind of what I try to talk to my clients about on our initial call is that, rates are what they are. And if you want to buy a house, then um, you really got to focus on the whole big picture versus just what the rates are, what like the news is saying. So showing them like an actual worksheet with the breakdown of their purchase price and closing costs and what their payment looks like and how we can adjust that to make sure that it's, you know, comfortable as far as the payment goes, then rates aren't so scary and it eases their mind more. Um, I think I'm also, and you guys can kind of chime in about this too, is I'm also seeing a lot of seller credits, and that's helping with the buyers buy down their rate, which obviously will in turn make their payments lower. So I'm kind of talking to them about the different scenarios that would make the most sense to them if, even $5,000 seller credit. And even if they go up $5,000 in the list price or whatever they're offering when it comes time to you guys negotiating, the difference in the payment because the rate buy down could really make a difference in that buyer's mind. I mean, we look at it sometimes and think, well, it's just like $20, $50 an extra a month, but that can make or break a borrower a lot of times, even just a little bit, and help them, be more confident in putting in that offer and moving forward. Another thing that I would love your opinions on is just the pre-approval letter in general. I know I had this discussion one time and there was a lot of opinions about what to put on the pre-approval, whether it's matching the offer price or their max approval or something different than and it depended on like the buyer's agent's perspective and the listing agent's perspective, but I always like to hear what you guys think about that, and get your kind of input there.
I always put the price that we're offering on there.
Yeah, both. And you think both like buyer side and listings agent, same way?
What do you mean the listing agent?
Like, so when I had this conversation before, it was funny because the buyer's agent would be like, well, if I'm spending an offer for the buyer, then I want it, like you said, to be the offer, which, you know, I totally agree with. And I tell my clients too, that like the agent will usually reach out and will revise the pre-approval letter when you submit an offer. But then I got a lot of feedback from the listing agent side and say, well, if I was the listing agent on it, I would want to see like the max approval. So it was very interesting to kind of see the different sides and different perspectives. So I don't know like where you meet in the middle, you know what I
I
mean?
mean, of course they want to see how high they can go.
Yes.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, no. I mean, if I was on the sell side, or on the listing side, I would definitely, it wouldn't keep me from negotiating for my seller, but no, I would never do the whole amount.
Yeah, I feel like it's just showing your cards.
Well, I think that, and this is just my 2 cents, but I think that as a listing agent, I like to see the purchase price,
Mm-hmm. Like the
because at
list price.
least then, if it's coming in, that they can afford the house and they're a serious buyer. Because let's say it's $400,000 house, their max is 350. That's what the letter says, right?
Mhm.
Then that's all the room they have to go. There's no sense in negotiating that because they can't afford the house, even
Mhm.
as something closer to the list price.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I can see the like list price perspective too. I mean, that makes sense. Stacy, did you have something?
Yeah, I agree with Adam. List price or even just the address, because then I know, okay, well, they've had that conversation about this particular property.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen
I
the
agree with
address.
Stacy on that as well, because sometimes you get these blanket approvals and it's just, they were approved 2 months ago, and, who knows what property they were looking at then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Anybody else want to chime in? Well, like I said before, if your buyer is pre-approved with me, then I definitely would, I encourage you guys to send me what you're offering, what you want on the pre-approval, and revise it. And like you said, Adam, so the date on there is refreshed and new and isn't 2, 3, 4, 6 months old, just because that's the one you initially got. Because I think that makes a difference too, because a lot can happen in even 2 months. So between rates and just buyers changing jobs or whatever they're doing, you never really know exactly. Yeah, and as far as like the money to cover the difference, I mean, that's like, that's kind of like, I've had those conversations more so when we were like going way over ask, and the listing agent was worried about just the appraisal. I have had many conversations during that time to the listing agent saying that they have sufficient funds to cover any difference, and just verbalizing that and reassuring them that it's okay if that's the way that goes. Obviously, nobody wants that to happen, but at least it encourages the listing agent and sellers that, they're okay. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Another thing to kind of help with buyers too in general is just that creative financing strategy, as far as maybe it's not a standard loan, and maybe they're a buyer client that you have that aren't really in that like box per se. Maybe they're self-employed or just don't have the right picture to fit for like conventional or FHA or VA or whatnot. There's so many options as far as non-QM loans, so non-qualified mortgage loans, that there's a lot of people that can fit into a box somehow. So just don't disregard them. There's probably something out there. And if there's not something right now, then maybe there's something that we can work towards. If it's like credit issues, we can work towards getting them to the right credit to get into whatever loan program they need to get into to make it work. Same with like assets. I hear a lot of people be like, well, I don't have enough money to put down to buy a house. And that's the same thing. There's so many different like down payment assistance programs and loans that you can finance things in, that there's ways to kind of work it out and again get them to get across that finish line. Any questions about creative financing, or anybody had any different kind of financing that they've done recently?
I've been asked a lot about Homes for Heroes. Can you give me a little explanation of what Homes for Heroes could benefit as far as down payment assistance or anything?
Yep. So Homes for Heroes is a program. There's different ways people partner with it, because there's agents that actually partner with it as well as lenders. So you can kind of combine, but it's essentially just a lender or a credit towards closing costs for specific people in the industry of like if they're a police officer, a firefighter, a teacher, a nurse, or in the healthcare field in general. We automatically do $500 credit on the lender side. But there's the program itself is actually, if you get into it as an agent, there's like a portion of your commission that can be credited towards these buyers, and they give you like leads and that sort of thing. If you haven't looked at it in detail, that might be something to look at if you're interested in that. I know I kind of went down that route for a while to try to get more of a lender credit to be like partner with them officially. But the not like officially being their partner, like a lender listed on their website and that sort of thing, I still do a $500 credit towards those types of buyers. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah. So any other kind of real life scenario that you guys wanted to address today as far as anything finance related or loan program or anything that you guys can think of that I can help with or we can help with as a group, actually?
One thing I'm always curious about regarding the creative financing is we know there's a ton of options out there, but I think it can be a little intimidating for people that have those types of jobs to see whether it's even worth reaching out to a lender, or they automatically assume they might not qualify or anything like that. And then, of course, they're worried about like a pull on their credit if they can't get approved. And so, what would you say are kind of some benchmarks for people in terms of when they might feel ready if they have a job like that, or what are some kind of like check boxes they can make to kind of give themselves a peace of mind about it? I don't know, like what would you say to people that are kind of on the fence that we can say to our clients in terms of like, hey, if you meet these few things, and like, yeah, I feel like you'd be pretty well set up. whether that's a length of time in a job or I don't know. Any advice for those types of conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think that being like simple about it and not trying to explain maybe these specific loan programs, because there's, like you said, there's so many and there's different requirements and qualifications and that sort of thing for all of the different options, and whether it's like for an investment property or for a primary home or that sort of thing, like just keeping it like simple and sweet and being like, there could be plenty of options. It doesn't hurt to have a conversation. I'm never the one that's going to be like, here's my website, submit an application and we'll talk. So I'll always have like that 10-15 minute initial consultation to kind of get a good idea of what that profile looks like and give them expectations for the actual loan application, which would come next. And one of them being the fact that we do only a soft credit pull initially. And that still gives us enough to do a true pre-approval, and gives us the credit score and debts so we can calculate their debt to income ratio. So it's what we need, but it also isn't a hard inquiry on their credit. So it kind of just gives them the peace of mind that they're not like super committed if they don't want to be right now, but it's easing them along the path of getting there. And I think the process can be, mind-wrecking for some people, and you do have to kind of hold their hand and ease them into things, or else you'll scare them away. So that's kind of my approach, where we just have a conversation and I give them expectation of what to expect on the filling out the application. And then we go over all of those loan options and different scenarios and that sort of thing to narrow them down to where they want to be as far as their ideal monthly payment and cash to close and all of that, before they kind of, get into your hands in real life, taking them to these houses, knowing, again, just having that confidence that they are able to buy these houses that they're looking at, and you're taking your time to show them, and doing the research behind the scenes for that matter too. Yeah, but it's just, again, I think it's simple and sweet, and just getting them to have that initial conversation and telling them that there could be plenty of options either now or getting them to the point where they'll be ready in the future. Anybody else have anything?
I'm curious if you guys have listings, kind of what type of stuff you're seeing in terms of financing, whether we're talking about how people are presenting their pre-approvals or how appraisals are coming in. I don't know. I would love for this to kind of be similar to our Monday calls and just kind of share what you're seeing. So if you have anything on the buyer or seller side, even if it's not necessarily a question for Allie, be a great time to chat.
Start calling people out like a teacher. I have had a lot of listing agents reach out as far as just trying to figure out more like lender incentives to push out for listings that may be sitting there, just due to this weird market that we're in. And it's hard, like I totally get it. And if you don't know that I am able to offer lender incentives to at least like put out there on your listings, or, have a reason again to reach out to the buyer's agents that have come and shown that house, then know now that I do give them, and we can kind of figure out what the best strategy is for that, to help your listings maybe move a little bit faster and give a little bit more incentive and get people off that fence to pull the trigger.
All right, y'all. Well, if no one has anything, that wraps us up. You guys know where to find Allie, but if not, I'll be sure to include her contact info when this goes out. I know she hit on it last time. She hit on it at the beginning of this call, but the Mortgage News Daily is a great resource for both you and your clients. It kind of empowers people to see what's happening in real time from a rates perspective without having to go down a rabbit hole of news headlines as well. So, at the very least, kind of make a standard practice of implementing that and then get to know Allie. If you haven't yet had a chance to get coffee with her, she loves to do that and really get to know you personally. So, otherwise, feel free to use her as a resource as things come up on your deals or with your clients. Allie, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.